Neil Young has removed his music from the platform of Spotify, and Joni Mitchell and apparently some other people want to as well. I'm very sorry that they feel that way. I most certainly don't want that. I'm a Neil Young fan. I've always been a Neil Young fan. No hard feelings towards Neil Young, and definitely no hard feelings towards Joni Mitchell.
Joe Rogan is addressing the conflict right now that is some musicians removing their music from the streaming service in protest of some of the opinions about COVID-19 that are available on Spotify, including on the Joe Rogan Experience.
Again, I'm not trying to promote misinformation. I'm not trying to be controversial. I've never tried to do anything with this podcast other than just talk to people and have interesting conversations.
Joe does disagree that some of his episodes promote dangerous misinformation because the science about COVID-19 is an evolving thing as experts learn about it in real time.
Many of the things that we thought of as misinformation just a short while ago are now accepted as fact. Like, for instance, 8 months ago, if you said, if you get vaccinated, you can still catch COVID and you can still spread COVID, you would be removed from social media. They would ban you from certain platforms. Now, that's accepted as fact. If you said, I don't think cloth masks work, you would be banned from social media. Now, that's openly and repeatedly stated on CNN. If you said, I think it's possible that COVID-19 came from a lab, you'd be banned from many social media platforms. Now, that's on the cover of Newsweek. All of those theories that at one point in time were banned were openly discussed by those two men that I had on my podcast that have been accused of dangerous misinformation. I do not know if they're right. I don't know, because I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist. I'm just a person who sits down and talks to people and has conversations with them. Do I get things wrong? Absolutely, I get things wrong, but I try to correct them. Whenever I get something wrong, I try to correct it because I'm interested in telling the truth. I'm interested in finding out what the truth is.
I do think Joe has to realize, and I do think he recognizes in this video, that simply having someone on his podcast, for listeners, that means Joe is giving them his seal of approval. And further to that fact, since Joe hasn't researched these people or isn't prepared to really challenge them or contradict them in any kind of way, it further just means that listeners take it as fact. And Joe recognizes that it needs to be better prepared.
My pledge to you is that I will do my best to try to balance out these more controversial viewpoints with other people's perspectives so we can maybe find a better point of view. Do my best to make sure that I've researched these topics, the controversial ones in particular, and have all the pertinent facts at hand before I discuss them.
And Joe absolutely approves of Spotify's new policy of including a warning before listeners start some podcasts.
One of the things that Spotify wants to do that I agree with is that at the beginning of these controversial podcasts, like specifically ones about COVID, is to put a disclaimer and say that you should speak with your physician and that these people and the opinions that they express are contrary to the opinions of the consensus of experts, which I think is very important. Sure, have that on there. I'm very happy with that. Also, I think if there's anything that I've done that I could do better is have more experts with differing opinions right after I have the controversial ones. I would most certainly be open to doing that.
I think Joe is very maturely approaching this conflict. I think what he says in this video is fantastic. He recognizes how he needs to improve. He points out what he's trying to do with this podcast, and he's okay with Spotify putting a disclaimer before some of his episodes. I don't see what else Joe can do. But yeah, what do you think of what Joe had to say about this conflict?